o'clock. We are going to get started as promised because we start on time. So let's get started. Let me see if I can get this back to the beginning for us since you're done looking me up. Let's try this again. And view slideshow. Yeah, start again. Okay, so right now, 6 o'clock, we're going to start right on time. For those of you who showed up, I appreciate it. Where did my little finger go there? There it is. And as I said before, we've got a light load tonight, and that's okay. We'll let people trickle in. And that all means that you get more attention for you guys. I think the election's pulling people away. So we're going to be focusing on two different things right now, the budget and the organizational model. Now, Paul, this is your first time on here, right? I know you've registered in the past. Norcus and Ling, this is your first time on here as well.
Correct.
Cool. So this will be interactive. As I ask questions, you guys just answer them back. Some real-life situations. Because there's a small group of us, we can really kind of get in the nitty-gritty, make this a little coaching session as well. Okay. So focusing on a couple of things, some ground rules. We are going to start at 6 and end no later than 7 o'clock, depending on the interaction, depending on how fast we do. We might end sooner than 7 o'clock so you can get to church and other events. Vegas rules means whatever's said in here, don't pick on people, don't think they're silly, don't think they're goofy. This is a safe place. So ask the questions that you think might be a little out there. Ask the questions that you might feel that should already be answered. We'll make sure we keep it a safe place. Engage with everyone. I'm really going to encourage and pick on some people. I know exactly who's on. I know who's paying attention. I know who's not paying attention. I don't know how they figured it out, but I know it, so it's pretty cool. Engage with everyone. If you do have some background music or have some background noise or have to take a phone call, please mute yourself. To do that, you push *6 and you'll be muted. Or if I hear it to you, then I'll just go ahead and mute you myself. Be prepared to implement the strategies. We're going to talk about that every session we come back of what you've learned and also what you're doing back. Somebody has me on speakerphone right now. Can you take me off, please? Only because the speaker comes back out and then I hear myself talking again. So thank you very much. What we're going to cover today, let's talk about last week. So last week, nobody was on. We talked about, I'm going to find out who's got me on speaker. We talked about the economic model, your goals and goal setting. If you guys did not have a chance to see it and you want to jump in, I do have the webinars available for you to view after hours. So let me know and I will email it over to you. MREA models, the 4 of them, we're going to talk about those. The 3 areas in your budget that you need to be focused on. And a lot of this is summarized right from that Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I actually went through it, reread these chapters, and pulled a lot of the information from here for that. Other things might be from my own personal experiences or from different trainings I've attended throughout my tenure here. We're going to look at the budget, look at the breakdown of the budget, and really see how it affects you and what any questions you might have with this spreadsheet of that. Going into the organizational model, that's past the 7th level. Everyone has, not everyone, but a lot of people have the aspiration or dream to have the real estate business that's fully functioning that gives you passive income that you can one day sell. We're going to talk about that path and when to make those key hires. 3 key hires. And once you have a team, compensation ideas. This is not the go-to place. This is just what I've gathered and what I would do if I was in a position to do it as well. So these are some ideas we're going to talk about. The 4 models, we've already gone over the economic, the lead generation, the budget. So if you have your red book with you, go ahead and open it up and you can find the budget model on page 157. In the organization model, you'll be able to see on page 202. So just so you references what we're talking about between these 2 key areas. Let's talk about the 3 areas to follow in your budget. Now, question for you guys. You have a commission. It's $4,000 if you just sold a $130,000 house. Sound right?
Yep.
So you have $4,000. You're going to have the cost of sales. You're taking home about $2,500. What do you do with that $2,500? What kind of account do you put it in?
My check.
Do you have a separate account?
No.
Because what I want you to really drill in, and a key focus of what I've done as a realtor and how I teach my agents, you are a business owner. And if TGI Fridays sells a hamburger for $25, it's an expensive hamburger, they don't get to keep $2,500 of it. They've got a certain amount of expenses. Would you guys agree?
Correct.
So if you guys take this check home that you collect from Maritza or Scott or Susan, whoever it might be, you need to really say how much goes to my budget, how much goes to my dinner table. And I want you to really think that out, because that helps you budget things like dues that come up, helps you budget things like education, helps you be able to financially afford your first hire when you want to, because it becomes a business expense. So as you guys are doing it right now, I want you to look at the things you spend. I want you to lead with revenue. Who knows what lead with revenue means? That's a nobody. So lead with revenue means if you've never sold a house, then you don't get to spend anything because your budget is zero. You're going to lead with money that you've already made. This is not a field of dreams. This is not if you build it, they will come. This is not, as soon as I get that park bench and movie theater advertisement and billboard, then so many people will call me. So it makes sense. And we're going to really break down what you can control in your expenses, how much money, based on percentages, you can spend based on how much money you make. So leading with revenue, if you've never made a sale, then your lead generation is you pounding the pavement, picking up the phone, because you're a cost to yourself. When you make that first $2,500, we're going to talk about it, and you're going to see exactly how much money you can spend for lead generation, which is about 10%. So now you can take $250 and perhaps start a farm, build that. So we're going to say lead with revenue once you have revenue. Play red light, green light. How many of you guys, as licensed agents, get numerous phone calls from the greatest, hottest thing that's generating leads all over the country? You guys get those?
Yeah.
I know I did. They all sound enticing. Some of them work. Some of them don't. And the way you can control is play red light, green light. So once you have some revenue, and you say, great, now I've got $250 to spend for lead generation. What do I want to do? You get to perhaps start a farm and start working that farm, or do some postcards. The red light, green light says gauge it for 60 days, gauge it for 90 days. One thing that's red light, green light is don't be concerned with the money you spend, be concerned with the money you get back. So if you're investing money into a lead generation technique and it's not giving you a return on your money, that's when you go red light, stop, reevaluate what I'm doing here, and don't start again until you have a green light. Be accountable for your investments. We're going to talk more what that looks like, but that's a key strategy that it's very easy and overwhelming to have so many great ideas, to want to duplicate and emulate a lot of the successful agents who might have 8 different sources of leads coming through. But they've played red light, green light, and everything fits in their budget. So do that with yourself. Go small. Be careful of the catch-22. Catch-22 says you feel like you cut back on spending because your revenue is down, and you cut back on investing in activities that are actually money-making activities, therefore your revenue never goes up. So be careful. The catch-22 means know where your money is going, know what the return on your value is. A great example that every Keller agent does is you've got the edge that you guys pay for. You're paying a technology fee, and if you're not using it, then you got to say red light, green light, hold on, and reevaluate it. And what's nice about the edge is everything that's in there. If you did it a la carte with the dot loop and with the imprev and with the market leader, it would cost well over $200 or $300. Because there's 80,000 associates, it's nice that it's only $20 to $35. So evaluate that. And the third one is stick to your budget. We're going to look at what the budget means. We're going to talk about what it works for your own budget. Use some real-life examples. Shannon just got online. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi.
And Shannon was my brave soul last week who was a guinea pig. So I'm excited that I have some people who will be a guinea pig a little bit. We'll talk about that. When you're looking at your budget, address it weekly, update it monthly. Weekly is a bare minimum. Now, when you think about 6:10, my alarm for me to wake up this morning at 6:10 a.m. to go vote just went off. So my crucial mistake was doing 6 p.m. and I overslept. It's now 6:10. think about every Keller Williams office. You've got the team leader, who might be that rainmaker, and then the second person is your market center administrator. Her or his job is primarily to take care of that budget. That's how important it is, because it does you no good to make a lot of gross profit and to have zero net profit, or to not evaluate what you're spending money on and what your returning value is. Does that make sense for you guys?
Yes.
So let's take a look at the budget model. So this is page 157, and rather than looking at it here, I'm going to go ahead and bring over the Excel spreadsheet. And all I did was created this real fast and pulled it right from the book. But looking at this section right here right first, this is your GCI, 180 million. I'm sorry, 80,000, 300,000, so on and so forth. Quick evaluation of my audience. How much is your current volume, your projected volume for 2012? So, who wants to be vulnerable, or can I just pick on all of you guys?
Mine is $1.2 million.
1.2. Now, that was Norcus who spoke right there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've been in business for less than 12 months, if I recall.
Absolutely. I started in May.
Okay. So, in 5 months, you've done 1.2.
Oh, no. I will do that by the end of the year. Right now, I'm up to 740.
Okay. So, it really, then we're looking May through December. So, in 7 months, you've done 1.2.
Correct.
Okay. Which is 7 and 12 is 58. So, if we take 1.2 and divide that by 0.58, your rolling 12 is right at about $2 million. That's what you can expect if everything stays the same. So, you're a $2 million producer. Who else? Who else is out there? Okay, so $2 million production, you can go ahead and say that this, let's insert a little spot for it, is going to be $60,000 in commission. Your cost to sale is $21,000. Your cost to sale is what you pay for your brokerage, what you pay for referral fees or split fees.
Okay.
Okay, so that's at $21,000. So you can see right here at $21,000, all stays the same. This is based off of the average split or cost of sale for a brokerage fee. After here, it jumps. Why do you think that jumps so high?
No idea.
Anyone else out there know? No. What's that? Adriana and Paul, would you say there?
Yes.
So this is your buyer's agent splits, your listing agent splits. You put a couple of buyer's agents on your team. If you're doing $500,000 in GCI, that's a team of $16.7 million. That's probably 3 licensed agents. Your licensed agents are making $40,000 each. You're still paying a split of 21. Make sense?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That leaves you with your gross profit of right here. So it leaves you with a gross profit of $39,000. Which is, and I should have done this prior to, but we're using real life numbers here. So 39,000 divided by 60,000 is 65%. So we're really looking at 0.65. There you go. You can see the drop off there once you hit to the different levels. Okay? Your expenses. Now an expense, you can pretty much maintain around 33%. You can see it's here and it actually goes lower and lower as it even goes higher and higher. I would probably do this for about 33%. You guys need to think that's high, yet I'm going to show you where that comes from. So if we do 60,000 times 33%, it's 19,000. How many of you see that number and go, what the heck, 19,000? That seems like a lot of money to give away for expenses, right?
Yep.
Especially because it leaves you with this minus this minus this. A $19,000 net income. Now the reason is because we take this expenses right here and expand it out. I guess draw an arrow right there. So this now is this expense detail. Let's break this down. Salaries. Now, if you're by yourself, Norcus, or anybody else out there, who do you pay a salary to?
Nobody. I'm by myself. Just to me, I guess.
So you're paying yourself a salary, and that's what that accounts for. You pay your salary of $20,000, or whatever it might be, that's now a $40,000, and that's pretty much your expenses you were seeing right there. So that's why it's a little bit skewed, because this really talks about when you have the team. Regardless, I want you to use it as a base for you. Here's a consistent theme. Lead generation across the board. What are you saying?
10%.
Yeah, across the board. You guys get that paycheck coming through and you get to close, you don't get to go buy a new jet ski or pay off a car because you owe your business 10% to lead generate. That way when you do have the opportunity to do a great lead generation, you're not taking money away from that new car. Because there's family money and there's business money. Here's pretty consistent numbers. Now these numbers were created, if you recall how this book was written, Gary Keller, Dave Jenks, and Papasan, they interviewed 100 agents who were all netting $1 million or more. What does your business look like? Tell me about your expenses. Because this group over here, that's the $1.2 million. Oh, it's not even on there. The next level, 80 million, is 1.2. But they said, what does the business look like? What's your cost of sale? What do your expenses look like? Regardless, I really encourage you guys to put your actual spending into QuickBooks. Find out what you're spending on lead generation. Play red light, green light, what's working, what's not. Your occupancy, $1,500. That seems like a lot. At our office, if you have a desk, it's $65. You pay $12. That's $780 if you have a desk. So we can really, rather than you putting a fictitious number up here, I want you to put this out to your actual 10%. And let's figure out what these are, and we can do this. And what I'll do is create this spreadsheet so you can simply put it in, and then I'll create formulas where it does it for you, and you can get your projected spreadsheet based on percentages. That be beneficial for you guys?
Yes, please.
Okay. This will also help immensely to your accountant at the end of the year. I've got an agent, I won't say her name, I've been coaching her, and she's extremely successful. Last year she did $4.5 million, and she got hit with over a $30,000 tax bill.
Oh my God.
Okay. So $30,000 when she was not budgeted for $30,000 put her in a big bind. Because as we get this money of $2,500, guess how much you owe Uncle Sam? About 20%. $500, that's not yours. You got to give that back to Uncle Sam. Let's see if I got a question here. So you'll send us a spreadsheet. Yeah, Paul, I'm going to send the spreadsheet over for you guys. And I just created this, and I literally did this about 15 minutes ago, and just pulled it and inserted it from the Red Book. So we'll make it where it's clever. But think about that. $2,500, $500 goes to Uncle Sam. Now, if you actually budgeted for that, and you put it aside in a nest egg, then that $30,000 is not going to hit you so hard, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So now you have $2,500. $500 goes to Uncle Sam. 10% goes to lead generation. You've got to really say, how much am I really making in real estate? What's my net profit? As a single agent, you guys, technology, you're not going to spend $4,000. But what are some technology things you spend on every month?
E-Edge, I mean, and it's part of our agent bill, so.
Absolutely. What's this technology? It's there for you. What else?
I mean, Facebook, Twitter, and all that is free, so.
Most of those are free. Do you have any blog accounts, perhaps? What about the MLS?
Oh, yeah.
Any external websites, GoDaddy, and domains that you have?
Yes.
It only costs you, what, $9 a month, but hey, that adds up.
Mm-hmm.
So really think about everything you spend in your business. Your phone. Now, this is a cell phone. Do you guys write off your cell phone? Because the nice thing about being your own business owner is your write-offs, right, Paul? I say Paul because Paul has several businesses that he owns and is able to take advantage of different write-offs. Paul, you're unmuted, Paul. You can talk if you want. Paul's sending me the answers via questions. Groovy, he said.
Well, I muted myself. I don't want to give any feedback or anything. Am I sounding
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so far you're good. So if you prefer questions on there, then that's fine.
Okay.
Supplies. Let's talk about some supplies. What are some you guys use for supplies?
Flyers, paper, business cards.
Exactly.
Yeah, just listed, just sold.
For sale signs.
Ink.
Yeah, all this stuff adds up. So when you can look at it on a weekly basis and say, how much did I spend at Staples this week? And you can put that over here in your supplies category and say, I shouldn't be spending more than 1%. Maybe I got to tone down and get, stop buying the nice pens. Go for the ballpoint, whatever you got to do. I mean, I'm being exaggerant, but really think about that. Because one of two things are happening. Number one, you think you're making money, and really you're just spending a whole lot in your expenses, and your net worth is not very high. Or two, you're spending a heck of a lot more money for your business that you're not giving credit for when there should be tax-deductible write-offs, and you're going to be hit with a heck of a lot higher of a tax bill at the end of the year. You guys see how the running a budget is going to be important for you?
Yes.
What do you think is one of the most highest audited or tax audited? And I don't have numbers to back this up, but it's entrepreneurs, it's business owners, and you guys are a business owner. And if you were to get audited and you put a claim out there and you just guesstimate how much money you spend and they say, let me see it, and you can go show them a spreadsheet that's calculated weekly and monthly, you're going to pass the audit in flying colors. And if you don't, then you might be stuck with a $30,000 tax bill. Now, $30,000, gang, this is only $4.5 million. It's a nice living, but it's not a whole lot away from where you guys are going to be within the next year or two. Education dues, MLS fees, everything else, equipment, auto insurance. So I don't want to beat this to the dead horse. As you guys are starting right now and building it, I would highly recommend, and this is just somebody told me when I first started and when I was first starting to budget, pull away 35%, keep 65% for your car payment. 35% breaks down into two things. That didn't work out. It breaks down into 20% for Uncle Sam and 15% for expenses of your business. 15% is 10 right here, and the other 5 right here. Okay? And that's going to be your safe bet if you want to be safe and not be hit with those dues that are due last week. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. Any questions with this budget?
No.
Now, if you really wanted to look at this and the spreadsheet isn't there, this is simply move the decimal point over or divide by 3. Think about this. This is 180,000, you're making 60. So what if we were to divide it by 3? Right down here. This would be a salary of $7,000 that you either pay yourself or you find maybe a teenager to do up different things for you. Lead generation divided by 3 is 6,000. That works out. That's 10%. This is 500. This is 13,333. You guys get the drift? Mm-hmm. All we did was move the decimal point. All we did was make the math work because all business is a formula with stats. 180, and there you go. Work it that way. That's your home base. Now, when you do it every month, you're going to say, this is my budgeted. Maybe this is your actual. And now your actual is going to be only $1,100. Congratulations. You just saved $233 in your budget. That's profit. Okay? So we'll fix this and send it over for you. Let's get back to my spreadsheet. There we go. Getting better at navigating. The first two were pretty messy. Okay, so now that's the budget model. It sounds like it's pretty clear. I don't want to beat a dead horse. It is a pretty quick chapter because it's really all about you, an individual, analyzing your business. So now the path to the 7th level. How many people here would like to have a team one day?
Me? Yes.
So 2. I know Paul's been talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is going to be relevant for you. If it's not relevant for you, it's important for you to understand the process and what it might look like if you were to join a team. I think so. So the path to the 7th level, this is right out of the book, and it's actually changed a little bit. And I say it's changed based off of trainings, based off of mega camp I went to, based off of talking with top agents and what's working for them. But let's really talk about this. You've got your first level, and that's you. Right now, you all are in a point where you are everything. You are the sales and marketing. You are the administration processing. If you were to draw your organizational chart and draw it out, you don't get to put people's names in there. Or if you were to say, who does this, you're going to put Paul's name for every little bubble. Because Paul, you do everything from lead coordinating to a buyer's agent to telemarketing and everything else. As you grow and as you hire leverage, then you can start replacing the names. Your first hire is your assistant. Now, this is a common thing that people will fight and struggle with. How many of you know agents whose first hire is not an assistant? And if you know it, what is their first hire that you've seen people do?
Buyer's agent.
Yeah, number one answer. People want to be a buyer's agent. So the reason that they say the first hire is your assistant is because 60% of what you can do in a real estate transaction can be done by a non-licensed person. 60%. So when you can pay somebody an hourly wage instead of give away your commission, are you going to be spending more money or less money with a salary or a commission split? You're going to spend less money with a salary because the commissions are going to be much greater. So let's talk about what you're going to do. You have your first level here. Your second level is your first assistant. Your third level, still 2 admin because your assistant needs help and they're going to branch off. Now you brought in your buyer's agent. Now you're bringing in some telemarketing, transaction coordinator in-house, listing specialist, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, when you're at 6th level, you're the CEO, you're overlooking everyone else is doing the work, and you're holding 2 or 3 people accountable. 7th level is when you give up CEO-ness and you walk away. The way Keller Williams franchises operate, Lori Terrell, she is right here in 7th level. I am her CEO, and I have several listing and buyer specialists and admin and telemarketing. You guys see how we're just a one giant mega team? A lot of people don't see a market center as a giant mega team, but that's all we are. So when do you make your first hire? Who's ready to make one right now?
Not me.
Who said that?
That was me, Norcus.
Norcus is not ready to make your first one. So when do you think you're going to be ready, Norcus?
When I make a lot more money.
Well, what does that mean? What make a lot more money?
More transactions.
How many?
When I'm closing about 3 a month or 4, 5, I don't know.
3 or 4 or 5 a month. So anywhere from 36 to 60 transactions, you might be ready.
Yeah, I think
okay.
so.
What about anybody else? Anyone else out there? What do you think?
I'll be ready when the amount of leads I'm bringing in makes sense that I can make more money off the leads that I'm bringing in.
Absolutely. So Paul's in a unique place because he's kind of, and not going too in-depth, but he's going to provide the leads and let somebody else really handle the transactions and strictly be a rainmaker and not so much being with the hand-to-hand of the business. So Paul's going to work on generating the leads to feed somebody, then to build a team. So it's recommended that an average agent, some is less, some is more, it's just the average agent on level 1 can do anywhere from 0 to 36 transactions. That until you're doing 3 a month, you can kind of manage it. When you start doing 3 and 4 a month, you kind of want to pull your hair out sometimes.
Yeah.
You guys felt like that? Any 3 to 4 month closings?
Yes.
You kind of feel like you want to pull your hair out. You don't know this from that. You're working 70 hours a week at times. And the goal is to have a life worth living. So the average agent, now I've got someone like Dean Gonzalez. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's closing over 60 by himself this year. He's working hard. He also has, a part-time admin. What the average agent does here. Next level, when you make that first hire, you can immediately go to 60 units. Now take these numbers that you're seeing as a low efficiency and a high efficiency. I'm going to mute somebody. Nope, not you. There it is. As a low efficiency and a high efficiency. It wasn't you. Sorry, gang. Okay. So if you're a brand new agent, you're not efficient, you're closing 0. If you're an efficient single agent, you're closing 36 units. You get your first hire, you make your first hire as an admin, you're closing 3 a month, that's pretty low efficiency. You're closing 5 a month, you're doing well. Now think about that first hire and how crucial that is. Who likes numbers and math, or is it just me? Because I'm like a numbers whisperer lately. I don't know where it came from, but it just does.
Not me.
Well, let's think about this in terms of commission. Taking you from 36 to 50 or to 60 units is a growth of 24 units, right? Say yes.
Yes.
Make sure you're still out there. Good. Yes. Everyone said yes simultaneously.
Yes.
Yes.
Your average price point is $150,000. Some's more, some's less. So make this true for yourself. That's an additional $3.6 million in commissions. That's an extra $108,000 in GCI for one admin right here. A $30,000 to $36,000 employee just gave you another $108,000 in commissions. Does everyone see why that first hire is for an admin and not for a buyer's agent?
Yeah.
Because if you have a buyer's agent and it takes you from 36 to 60, that means they did 24. And we'll talk about compensation, but if you do a 50-50, that means you got an additional 12 units because they got 12 units. Now, additional 12 units gets you $1.8 million times 0.03. That gives you $54,000 in commission. So how much does it cost you if you hire a buyer's agent before you hire an admin? Only $54,000. That's it. So that makes sense now why it's much more cost effective to hire and leverage your admin. Because what's going to happen is if you hire your buyer's agent first, then you are still an admin. And you're saying sometimes I'm going to make 10 to 12 bucks an hour.
And if
sometimes
you
I'll make
said,
300.
if you said this, forgive me, but what do you advocate, a licensed assistant or non?
I advocate for a non, I guess really depends, why would you want them licensed? Would they be doing real estate activities?
I don't know. The heavy hitters that I talk to, most of them say that they hire licensed assistants so that they can fill in a pinch, they can discuss price and so on.
Yeah, because as a licensed agent, then you can negotiate, then you can fill out a contract, write contracts. There's more use for them. For your first admin, don't worry about licensed or non-licensed. Worry about that right hire. Go to Recruit Select if you've not been. Once you've been, go again and again and again and again. If you feel that you would like them to do more real estate activities, then go ahead and pay for them to be licensed. Don't make that a qualification when they get hired, in my opinion. Okay? Let's keep going down this level of compensation. Your third level, add another 20 units. And again, low efficiency, high efficiency. And this is kind of a guesstimation because your fourth level, you've got a buyer's agent in there. You can each be doing 40 to 50. And that's where that comes in. And now you've got a buyer's agent. You're making an additional,
Chandler,
as a
the
team.
dog's acting like it's hungry. Have you fed it?
I thought Paul was talking to us there.
Food. Was it fed tonight?
There, Paul's muted. The dog's hungry. 80 to 100 units. And then really after that point, a full leverage team, every licensed agent should be able to add 48 to 60. If you had a buyer's agent on a fully leveraged where all they have to do is answer the phone and go convert buyers, they can close 4 to 5 a month, which gives you an extra 2 to 2.5 a month, which gives you an extra 30 closings. Path to the 7th level. What questions do you guys have? We're going to talk about how this has changed and transformed through MegaCamp in the past couple of months, but what questions do you guys have for the 7th level? Or for the passive when you make your first hire, perhaps?
Rick?
Yep.
Okay, one of the things that I have been told is that you could use a transaction manager. So is that a practical solution up until you get to that next level? I mean, for me, because I'm new, I just wanted to make sure I had somebody backing me up so that I didn't miss anything and cause any problems for my clients. So
Yep.
my first 2 transactions, I used a transaction manager just to be sure that I didn't miss anything.
Yep, absolutely, Shannon. And transaction coordinator, for those of you guys who don't know really what that is someone who can take the details of the work after you're under contract and make sure the inspection and the appraisals and all the communication's done and everything's just peachy and in order. And you can do this by leveraging to an external company. There's a couple of them, and email me on the side. I give you some names of them. And in most cases, they'll only charge you the full fee when you close. So it's about $300 out of that commission. That's going to be part of your salary, talking about the budget. So you're going to pay a salary of that. And then if it doesn't close, you pay them $50 instead of $300. By doing that, you can say every transaction I might spend a total of 8 hours. And that's kind of fair. 8 to 10 hours you'll spend taking care of details. And by taking 8 to 10 hours and say I'm going to trade this with focused lead generation, I'm going to go get another 5 appointments. And that's your first level of leverage. Now once you start going to, let's say, 3 a month, Shannon, and you're paying $300 a month, and how much are you really paying for your transaction coordinator?
I'm really paying $900.
$900. 900 times 12 months is $10,000. So you might say, could I get a part-time employee? Could I get a full-time employee who could help me out with the other admin things I'm doing? Because 3 a month, if you recall, is right at 36,000 or 36 units. So there's a point when it's going to become way too expensive for you to constantly leverage out single transactions. But if you're doing less than 10 a month or 1 every other month, there's no reason that you should have a full-time employee working for you because they would be bored. So as you're building that up, absolutely. The key is once you give it to them, then go replace it with money-making activities. So if you look at this chart, your first assistant, this can be an outside person. This can be somebody, and then perhaps you hire your full person who's a transaction coordination. And you might still do marketing because you only afford part-time. And then you do full-time, and that becomes your first assistant. So this is just a guide, and everything's going to be different. If you ask some of my top 3 teams, the Philbeck Group, Weimer Group, and Lopez, they're going to have different people in different places, yet the concept's the same. And it almost goes back to the red light, green light of the budget of if you're going to hire somebody, what is the return on that investment? If you're going to hire somebody to go out and do all of your photography and take care of all of your things out in the field, showing up for inspections, what's the return on investment? Because they're not making you any money, they're just giving you time. Are you replacing that time with money-making activities? So, there's 3 key hires. One of the coolest things I've heard from Gary Keller, he told me, not me personally, but me and about 9,000 other people, 2 mega camps, was he can count on less than one hand how many people he has personally hired in Keller Williams. It's 4. Mo Anderson, Mark Willis, Mary Tennant, might even be 3, I'm not even sure, and Jay Papasan. Your 3 key hires, the first one's your executive administrator. I've said this before, 60% of real estate transactions can be completed by a non-licensed person. Once you have your executive administrator, and this is where it's changed slightly from that chart we were just looking at, a showing assistant. So those of you who are working buyers, tell me, when you work with a buyer, how many hours are you spending on average before you close with that buyer? Have you done that math? And I don't have that exact answer, but I want you to do that math. I want you to think about how long it takes you. Let's say you talk on the phone, you do a little prep work, so that's maybe a total of 30 minutes. You have a consultation for 60 minutes, so I'm at 90 minutes. And you go show property. How long are you showing property for when you show property of anywhere from 5 to 12 houses? 4, 5 hours? Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say my last buyer, I worked with her for about 7 hours total. Prep time, pulling listings, and on the road. Maybe 8.
Okay. So 8 hours total. And that was closed?
Yeah.
You got them to the closing table? Okay. And you counted all the emails and back and forth addendums, that sort of thing?
No, probably more like 12 then.
Okay. Of that 12, Shannon, how many were spent on the road?
I would say 4 or 5 maybe at the most.
So 1/3 to 40%. So we'll just say about 35% for the sake of math is spent on the road. And you could get 4 to 5 hours back with a buyer, every buyer. So if you think about the model of a showing assistant, if you're closing, let's say 2 buyers a month because you're closing 1 or 2 listings a month, that's about 8 to 10 hours a month that you're spent on the road. Now, if you had 8 to 10 hours back instead of going on the road to do lead generation, what could you do with it? You go get more buyers. And if you could double your amount of buyers you get and only give away 25% of your income, is that good leverage?
Yeah, but since I'm a really high S, are they going to feel like I'm abandoning them if I send them out with someone else?
Oh my God, that was my same question.
Yep. It's a common question, and it depends on really how you situate it and how you do it. So here's the interesting thing. Agents think that they are the best thing to their clients, and the clients are never abandoning them, or clients are so loyal to them.
I am
And
my client.
every agent is replaceable.
I know.
Every team leader is replaceable. Because it's not about us, it's about the values and our work ethic and our standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have someone on your team who has the same values, ethics, and standards, then is your client going to be equally as happy? And they might say, but Norcus, I was referred to you by my friend and I need to go with you. So here's what you do, because the showing assistant strictly, they're going to drive around town for those 4 to 5 hours, opening doors, talking about the different neighborhoods. In the meantime, you're doing money-making activities and lead generation, setting more appointments. And then they come back, and you're going to write the contract. You're going to negotiate. You're going to give them to your full-time executive administrator, because that's your first hire. And they're going to take them to the closing table. It's the same question as should they feel abandoned when they start getting emails from your EA saying, why aren't you talking anymore? I want you to send me emails. When you set it up and you have that showing assistant sitting next to you at your buyer's consultation, where you introduce them from the beginning, and you say, this is my partner, and we're going to work, and I'm going to stay here in the office and really focus on different negotiations and monitor the MLS, and they're going to go out and show you the property. When you come back, we're going to write an offer together. Now it's just part of the process.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So a showing assistant, you pay them 25% of the commission, so it's your transaction.
It's your transaction.
5%. Oh, okay.
So now that $4,000 commission, you give them $1,000 of it, you make $3,000.
That's awesome.
You go from maybe 3 to 6. Now you're going to say they're getting the equivalent of 1.5. They're making $1,500 a month, and then you're making an additional $45. So the concept of showing assistant is going to be likely a newer agent who wants to learn the process, and they are going to grow and groom into a full buyer's agent.
Okay.
Then the buyer's agent has the opportunity to grow and groom into a lead buyer's agent. And when you talk to them, some people might say 25%, no way. I'm not going to do that.
I know.
But how many agents do you look to your left and to your right and your peers would love to be closing 1.5 deals a month as a brand new agent?
Mm-hmm.
And are they getting an opportunity to say, and then once we start doing this many closings, then you're my buyer's agent, you take this yourself, and then you pay a different split. And then once we're cooking, then I want you to go out and hire your own buyer's agents and have your own buyer's team because you're a lead buyer's agent. And that's what's kind of cool is you're hiring not only a position, but you're hiring a growth opportunity for a long-term partner. That's why these first hires are so crucial. The third one is your listing specialist. You only hire listing specialists once you are bleeding listing leads and you have leveraged every other admin duty. Can I say that again? You only do that when you're bleeding your listing leads. Do not hire listing specialists if you are still uploading MLS pictures. Do not hire listing specialists if you are still showing buyers' houses. What's the highest producing activity you can do as a real estate agent? Listings. I'm on speaker again by somebody. I'm going to mute you if I can find you. So these are your first 3 key hires. When you hire your first assistant, maybe it's a transaction coordinator, maybe it's part-time. If you think back to the model, they're going to be hiring then the marketing coordinator. They're going to be hiring a lead coordinator. They're going to be hiring somebody else. You hire your showing assistant. They're the ones who hire the other buyer's agents. Because if we look back at this panel right here, excuse me, and you are in the 5th level, and you are supposed to be the lead listing specialist, or even the 4th level, you are the listing specialist, but you also have to coordinate for marketing admin, transaction coordinator, maybe another buyer's agent. How much listings are you really focused on? When you can have your first assistant be the boss to this person or vice versa, and the boss to these people, when you have your lead buyer's agent be the boss of your buyer's agent, other showing assistants, you can focus on listings. That's your job. Because if you guys were a CEO, you wouldn't hire a lead listing specialist and say, also go to look over the buyers, look over the admin. It's not your job. Think of what you do there. So when you hire these people, they become the bosses of their branch. And that's what are the 3 key hires. Everyone else after that's up to them. If your buyer's agent, your lead buyer's agent, you have a goal maybe of 3 buyer's agents and you have a goal of 12 a month. If they're not hitting 12, whose problem is that? It's the lead buyer's agent. And if they have somebody who's only doing 1 a month, not pulling their weight, they're going to fix it. They're going to make the decision. You're running a business. Compensation. When you have these people, there's no one way to do a compensation. Use your discretion. This is what I would do if I were an agent. This is what I've heard and cumulative through some people, and I've kind of derived it to my recommendation. So again, this is not the sole way to do it. This is not out of the red book. This is my own stuff. Administrative. Anywhere from $16,000 to $24,000 a year. The reason it's that number is because it equates to $8 to $12 an hour. Personally, I prefer salary. Why? Because there's no overtime, because they're not looking to punch out a time clock, because if you need them on a weekend to help out with an open house, they can do it. Over buy-in. Offer some bonuses. If you close so many houses a month, they get a bonus. Now they have buy-in to your goals. That's how I would do an admin. Showing assistant, we had to talk about 25% of close. Some other markets I've heard, some people give a flat rate, maybe $1,000. If you can do $1,000, then you better be having an average sales price of $135. Because if you sell a house for $75,000, you give them away $1,000 of it, you're taking a bath. Real estate agents on the team, this is the favorite thing I've heard, because if you ask every rainmaker here in my office, they're all going to tell you a different model. There's 3 pots. 25% always goes to the team. 25% whoever generates the lead, 50% goes to whoever works the lead. So let me take a look at this. You've got 100% right up here. Okay? 25, 25, and 50. If you create a lead off one of your listings, what's the split?
What do you mean?
You've got a buyer's agent. Somebody calls you on your great new listing you've got at 123 Main Street. You give them the lead, they close it. How much does that buyer's agent owe you off this model?
50.
50?
50%. Expenses always happen. You generated a lead, so you get that. They work the lead. Okay? So, if you have somebody as your buyer's agent and they go out and do an open house, and then you generate their own lead, what do they get? They get 75. They generated the lead of the open house. They worked it. The team gets 25% to pay for your admin. This incentivizes your buyer's agents to go out and lead generate and not be dependent upon your leads. Again, this is different models for different people. This is my favorite that I saw, and this was taken from Steve Tufts, who is a multiple market center owner and also a 7th level owner in Atlanta, Georgia. He has expectations for everyone on his team to create some leads. When they do that, if they want more business, go create your own leads, and all you owe me is 25% so I can have you leveraged and pay for your admin. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so what questions? Oh, Shannon's got her hand up. Let's see, what does that mean? Raised hand for 17 seconds. Shannon, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I have a question. I have an agent in my office who does not like to work with buyers. I love buyers, so I have no issue with that. So she referred a buyer to me, and we haven't really had a conversation about what is the standard and expected split on that. So what would that be?
Yeah, the most common split would be 25%.
To
Some of my, that you give her, and you keep 75%.
okay.
Some of my agents offer 30% because they just can. If you don't want it, they'll find someone else who does.
Okay.
Sometimes, if depending on how low or bad the lead might be, I mean, if you're going to be driving an hour to maybe look at a $50,000 mobile home, they'll say 10%.
Okay.
So figure out whether it's going to be this is a standard or is it based on maybe a tier of how much it is.
Okay.
But yeah, the normal should be about 25%. That's the most common.
Okay.
So that's an interesting question because as a team leader advising this lady, she's only collecting 25% for expenses. When actually she generated the lead. What would it look like if she had a buyer's agent and she could collect 50%?
Yeah, it was a call off of her sign, and she didn't have time to call him back and didn't want to deal with it because it was a lower income property. And but I have a single agency contract with the people now, and they're going to work with me and they're going to refer me. So I see it as an investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, I just saw your question on there. Paul had a question of how many agents in the Waterford Lakes office have listing specialists. That answer, I would, and again, Jenny does not. Jenny is a listing specialist still, Jenny Weimer. George does 98% of REO with Fannie Mae. Therefore, he is the one taking the listings, yet he has a whole bunch of admin doing the processing for it. So he is kind of leveraging out the duties of a listing specialist because he actually goes on very few interviews. Ray, kind of the same thing, has Glenn McCullough, who manages a lot of his inventory that comes through, and Ray still does it himself. So I would say Ray probably has the closest model with Glenn taking listings. George, the next closest, but he really doesn't at all, and Jenny pretty much takes all of her listings herself. So that should answer the question there. So again, the model is different for everybody because Jenny does predominantly farms. She has to go on listing appointments versus George is more of a checklist and go here, make sure you do everything you need to. Going back to what you were talking about, Shannon, she couldn't have a buyer's agent until, just like Paul said, when can he hire when he generates enough leads to feed that buyer's agent. The worst thing you can do for an agent is to bring them aboard too quickly, not be able to feed them or not be having a split, and now they're working their own leads as they would be and paying you 25%, and for what? If you have it for coaching, if you have it for mentoring, that's one thing. But make sure when you have somebody on your team that you have your own accountability and you can say, I expect you to have a 75% conversion rate, and I'm going to give you X number of leads, and you'll be able to close this many. Because if you recall from an economic model, number of leads times your conversion rate equals you closed units. Leads are your problem, conversion rate's their problem, you both are a team, close your units. If one of them's falling, you've got to figure out who it's going to be. That's compensation. Back to over here, it's thinking real fast. I believe that wraps up what we're talking about. So future webinars. Any final questions with this that we didn't touch upon? We've got about 6 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we're giving value. Norcus, you got to go pretty soon. So any questions you've got?
My question is pretty much, it's not a question, it's just a concern. When you say showing assistance, I specifically asked a couple of agents if they wanted to show a couple of my listings and stuff, and all of them were like, okay, what are you going to give me, like 50%? And a few were like, are you going to pay me up front for gas and stuff? And I'm like, wait a minute, like, so how do you find these people? You know, like, I understand we're all in it to win, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't expect that answer. So where do you find people that are willing to, you know, be a showing assistant for 20
Marcus, I'll show property for you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great to know, because I don't have, honestly, I don't have the time. I have a lot of listings, but I don't have the time to show, you know.
There you go.
Yeah.
You guys should know right there. So the answer is come back with the question. You're going to pay me 50%. You say, okay, so how much is this worth for you then? And they're going to give you the answer. And you would just, like in bold, you talk, go back with a question. So how much money are you making right now if you don't show property for 4 to 5 hours?
Exactly.
Okay. So if I give you 25%, how much are you making? How much more money is that if you're making right now? Would you like this opportunity to go make some money?
Exactly.
And if they say, not for 50%, I won't, you say, okay, best of luck to you. And you go find someone like Shannon.
Okay.
If they say, pay me up front for gas, you
I
say,
know.
this is an expense, and I have an expense, and I'm giving you a commission, and part of that needs to be in your budget model.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, so many people, it's funny because real estate teams is one of the few things, because we're so engraved with commission and splits and caps. So how many of you have family members who work for a corporation? My brother works for Tiger Direct, which also owns CompUSA in Circuit City. He works very hard. He's very good at what he does. And he brings in millions of dollars of profitability in his division. Do you think he goes back and says, what kind of split are you going to pay me?
I know.
I mean, think about that people are so concerned with this percentage of getting their fair share, yet if somebody's making more money or a very healthy salary, who cares what the split is? If you pay them you almost say, if I could pay you a 10% split and you make $80,000 a year, would you do it? Mm-hmm. And some people would say, not for 10%, I won't. $80,000. You made $24,000 last year. You have to help people think that way, because not everyone thinks that way.
Well, if I can show property and she writes the contract, I would do that all day long.
Oh, I would love to do that. That's fine.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. We'll meet on Monday in person.
Okay.
All right, Shannon, we're also going to have to get together to see what your economic goals are now, because we've got to figure out what your role is.
Well,
you threw me for a loop there.
For now, until I get enough listings to create the income I want.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's seriously a great opportunity, so absolutely. Chat on Monday. Upcoming, next week, I'm going to be doing using video in your real estate business. So we're done with the models. This will be taught from everything I've learned and everything I do. If you guys want to do more videos, and also, Paul, if you're available, I'd love to leverage it on you because you do videos for your businesses as well. So it's going to be using videos, the different avenues, the different streams, some tips when you shoot videos and what your message is going to be. Farming's the 20th, scripts, all sorts of scripts. We're going to have some guest panelists doing some script role play. So make sure you're up there because I might call you out. What are some things we can do for future panels? Let me see you here. What do you guys want to hear?
Time management.
Okay. Well, I'm getting to a page where I can write this down. Time management.
Yeah, how much time should we be spending? I mean, we talk a lot about lead generation, but how much time then do we need to allow for follow-up for that lead generation? Because what I'm finding is I do a lot of handwritten follow-up notes, so it's a lot of time involved in that. But that's just the, my high S. That's what I do. So
We'll go more in that, but do not confuse handwritten notes as not being lead generation, because it is.
It is?
You're lead generated when you write handwritten notes. Absolutely.
Great.
You're making a touch, you're making a contact, you're building relationships.
I love that.
What else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Time management. What else are we going to do? Oh, look at the suggestion above. Paul had said profit share, techniques, scripts, etc. So let's make this wealth building. Paul, I'm going to be cautious with this because this is open to people who are not with Keller Williams. I'd rather make sure that this is a class exclusively for Keller. And I'm promoting this Tuesday night class to anybody who wants to go. So I don't want to make it profit share. However, that is an idea for some wealth building, possibly use the book of hold. Let's see what else he's got. Technique scripts. Never met an agent, dedicated listing agent. Paul says he's never met somebody with a dedicated listing agent. So Paul really said I've never met someone who's 7th level. That's kind of what he said there, because that would be a dedicated listing agent. There are people out there, I got a haircut soon, Paul, who, everything's in my calendar, trust me. People out there, so if you want to go to family reunion, we can definitely meet some people, and that's in February. Anything else you want to talk about? Okay,
No.
we'll keep that going there. We've already talked about that. What do you guys promise to implement?
A showing assistant.
Okay. Now, interesting, Norcus, do you have an executive administrator yet?
No.
Are you using a transaction coordinator?
No.
Mm.
I have.
You're willing to give Shannon $1,000 for 4 hours. You're willing to pay her $250 an hour. Well, we just went over this.
I do have a short sale kind of assistant, but obviously, you know.
Can I challenge you before you make any formal offers to Shannon or anybody else for that matter?
Yeah.
Takes 3 days, every half hour, write down what you did for the last 30 minutes.
Okay.
And when you do that, right next to it, write down how much you could pay somebody to do that job for you.
So.
And I bet you that you'll be making about the same amount of money as your showing assistant would be, because you're going to be doing admin work.
I know. I do a lot.
That's a challenge for you. If you could get rid of your admin work, you'll have more time to go show buyers. Sorry, Shannon.
No, don't worry, Shannon. I really need you. No, not a problem.
Okay, so Marcus is not listening.
I'll survive.
Here's what I would like for you guys. Let's go compound interest. Invite one guest next week to your session, whether in your office or whether a guest from outside of Keller. I would like this to build and build and build, because I feel that the more people who are interactive, the more this can do. And the sessions are going to be based upon what you guys want to do. So can you all commit to bring one person next week?
I'll try.
There's no try.
I invited 90 people at Bold.
you
That's right.
did. Thank you for that.
And that's why I'm here, honestly.
There you go. So Shannon, you did your job.
Okay.
This is, again, if you guys want to follow me and find me and do anything else, I've got a blog that I've just started to load all my videos on there. My YouTube has all my videos, so they'll kind of be relevant for next week's session. And then our office is the KW Waterford. So it's a little past 7 o'clock. I do my best to make sure we stay on time. Thanks for showing up again, and I always enjoy these nights. And we'll see you next week.
Great. Thank you very, very much.
You bet. Take care, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.